Hello, this is Rob from GRAF, and this week we're taking a slightly different tack. We're moving back towards Africa. I'm going to be talking about the 5 common misconceptions about Africa, living and doing business in Africa. So, 5 misconceptions about Africa. I think some of these are a little bit cliched. I think you have to be pretty sheltered to believe they're all actually true. But let's start and fire through them. And any comment, please drop a message below. First of all, the cliche that Africa is a country. Africa is, of course, a continent. It is made up of 54 countries. There are some small countries like the Gambia. There are some incredibly large countries like the DRC or Sudan. There are landlocked countries like Uganda and Rwanda, and there are lots and lots of coastal countries. And of course, there are also islands like the Comoros or Madagascar that everyone knows of. There are all sorts of different peoples. There are many different languages, and there are all sorts of topographies and climates, from the tropical West Africa to the dry deserts of Somalia and the tropical rainforests in the Congo. Cliche number 2, Africa is dangerous. Everyone thinks Africa is run by crazy despots and dictators. It's covered in wars, disease is rampant, and crime is horrific. The 2014 Global Peace Index found that 21 countries in Africa were actually safer than the USA, safer than the United States. Wars are generally a thing of the past. There are still some happening today, especially Mozambique. But a lot of those wars that people think of were really proxy wars during the end of the Cold War between America and the USSR. So yeah, Africa, you do need to be careful where you are in some big cities, just the same as the Western world. But there are some incredibly safe countries and safe capital cities in Africa. I've never felt in any real danger there. Africa is cheap. This is actually a very common misconception. People think it'd be really cheap to live there. It's not if you want a Western lifestyle. Mobile phone data costs can be very high. The costs of rent and food can be astronomical. The Mercer Cost of Living Index found the most expensive country, or at least capital city in the world to live in, was Luanda, Angola. But some of the other African countries also rated very high on that list. For instance, Chad, Gabon, Nigeria. Some of those countries, you can end up paying $10 for a Coke and $30 for a pizza. So Africa is not necessarily a very cheap place to live and do business. SABMiller, the brewing company, which has a lot of breweries all over Africa, budget on 30 to 40% higher capex for building a brewery in Africa, mainly due to costs with securing good water supplies, hygienic water supplies, and solving the problems of intermittent electricity supplies. And combine that with the fact that a lot of the capital items need to be imported, and it can be very expensive to do business and to live in Africa. But of course, the returns are higher to make up for it. Corruption is endemic. Everyone thinks you have to bribe your way everywhere. You have to link up with top politicians, and it's just not the case. A lot of African countries are clamping down hard on corruption. You do not have to pay your way. You do not have to grease the wheels. If you start doing it, you'll never stop. It's possible to get things done without it. Indeed, a lot of the countries are moving their governmental services online to avoid all the cash handling, to have online payments and circumvent the opportunity for corruption. And to quote Paul Kagame, the leader in Rwanda, we have corruption in the Western world as well. We have corruption in the developed world. It just goes by a different name. It's legal. It's called lobbying. Finally, the misconception that Africa needs our help. It's number 5 on our list. I've got a cover here of the book from the celebrated Zambian economist, Dembisa Moyo. And she studied the aid industry in Africa. Over the last 50 years, billions of dollars have been poured into Africa to help the Africans, and it hasn't worked. 50 years ago, 11% of the population of the African continent were living in poverty. Today, over 60% are. The aid has actually made things worse. It has increased corruption and caused corruption. A portion of it have been siphoned off to Western bank accounts by corrupt leaders, and the rest has been used by NGOs to help the people, to set up aid projects that were supposedly going to help the people, but a lot of the time all they did was hinder local commerce and local entrepreneurialism and local business, and make the people dependent on the aid rather than teaching them how to fish so they could feed themselves. Those were the 5 common misconceptions about Africa. Anyone's got any comments, as usual, post below or send me a private message. And any advice or help on the agriculture or food industry in Africa, just let me know. Thanks for now.